Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. You can follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad, and welcome to Thursday's edition of the dceu Daily. On today's show, we'll be getting the details about Ezra Miller deleting his Instagram, and we'll also be getting the details about Journey Smollett's excitement about Misha Green's Black Canary movie. And in the second part of the show, we're going to relax, we're going to be tame, and we're going to talk about Smallville. But first, let's talk about Ezra Miller. When I was predicting months ago, from the moment they delayed this movie, that this movie could be shelved, reshot, anything like that, you were saying there's no way they're going to do that, Mick. They've spent so much money. Everyone will forget about everything from June onwards, right? When the movie's released. The problem is Ezra Miller keeps on doing thing after thing, and it's very problematic for WB Pictures. They keep on throwing distractions out there, and he does something new. So this movie is in a perilous position. So let's get the details of what he's been up to this time. The Flash's Ezra Miller deletes Instagram after posting memes mocking Cult's attempt to find them. The Flash star Ezra Miller deletes their Instagram account, often posting a string of memes mocking legal authorities who are looking for the actor, by Brad Lang of CBR.com. The Flash star Ezra Miller deleted their Instagram account after posting a variety of memes taunting authorities who are actively searching for the actor after they were accused of manipulating and grooming an underage fan. As reported by The Direct, the images were posted directly to Miller's Instagram story before the actor deleted the account entirely. The memes themselves seemingly mock the legal officials who are pursuing the actor, featuring texts such as "You cannot touch me," I am in another universe," and "Message from another dimension." It's possible that these photos are in reference to The Flash, which will see protagonist Barry Allen meeting multiversal versions of himself. If this is the case, why did he take his Instagram down? Why are people making excuses for this person? The longest of the 5 messages reads, "I am shielded from negative people. Their ill intent, my spirit, my mind, body, soul, plus success are not altered by anyone's envy. I am protected from all negative," illegible people attempt to throw at me. "Subconsciously and consciously, I clear any and all hidden peers who are hidden enemies." Wow, wow, wow. Basically, Ezra Miller thinks they are untouchable. Ezra, you are not. Now, I don't know if you're going to get in trouble about any of this, but it's clear the authorities are after you, so you are in trouble. Look, it's a ridiculous, crazy, insane situation. Miller is reportedly hiding from law enforcement officers after Chase Iron Eyes and Sarah Jumping Eagle were granted a protective order against the Flash star on behalf of their 18-year-old child, Dakota Iron Eyes. The couple alleges that the actor took advantage of their child since Dakota was 12 years old, engaging in cult-like and psychologically manipulative controlling behavior. Iron Eyes and Jumping Eagle have stated that Miller provided their child with access to alcohol and drugs. Dakota has since defended Miller, claiming that their father is transphobic in a message posted to Instagram. Chase Iron Eyes and Sarah Jumping Eagle cast doubt on the legitimacy of the statement, revealing that Dakota doesn't have a phone. That's very interesting. We've discussed that before. Apparently, Miller took the phone away. Despite the protective order filed by the courts, authorities have yet to pin down Miller's location. Miller moves around so much that we're stuck in this legal limbo situation, and we can't serve them in any place they're in long enough. So, yeah, this is why he's on the run. It's not that they want to put him in prison yet. It's because he's avoiding the direct order to keep away from this 18-year-old young woman. He's moving around on purpose so he doesn't get served. Once you're served, that's it. Chase Ironeye said they've been flighty, they've been avoiding service, and now there's public pressure mounting on them to make a decision, which makes us very concerned about Ezra's volatile nature. This isn't the first time Miller has sparked controversy. The actor made headlines in early 2022 after they were arrested twice in Hawaii for harassment and assault. Despite actor's recent actions, Warner Brothers insists that it has no plans to remove Miller from the role of Barry Allen in the DC Extended Universe. Source, the direct. Right. Let's be absolutely clear about this. They don't know that. The direct don't know that. They don't know what Warner Brothers are planning. There's two sides to Warner Brothers right now. Toby Emmerich, the current outgoing chairman of Warner Brothers Pictures Inc., Group Inc., right? He doesn't want to mess with this movie. He greenlit this movie. He greenlit Walter Hamada's multiverse strategy. Anything from that strategy, he's going to get a great bonus, whether it makes these movies make money or not. So that element of WB have no intention of recasting or cancelling the movie. The problem is they don't have any power in this situation. All the power, lies with David Zaslav, the CEO of the newly formed Warner Brothers Discovery. And as I say, it's a ridiculous situation. Now we can see why at least I think 4 or 5 directors, ended up walking away from the Flash movie. I think it's something to do with him. Now, I actually was throwing respect at him for fighting for the integrity of the Flash movie, but it looks like this guy is a very difficult customer. In fact, constantly having meltdowns while Andy Muschietti's Flash movie was being shot. This is the major reason why this movie has been delayed. But also I've been told that David Zaslav isn't happy with Superman being replaced by Supergirl and some other things in the movie. So the movie needed some reshoots anyway. I'm sure of that. Now, last week, Barbara Muschietti was teasing a trailer coming very soon. This, of course, could be a distractive tactic, but if they say there's going to be a trailer, we have to take them at their word. But at the moment, there's nothing coming anytime soon about the Flash movie. My prediction about all of this is they won't make a decision until next year. That's insane. They hope this can die down and they can release this movie. But as I say, this guy is doing something new every day. It's no good. Next year, they will have to announce that this movie can't happen. This guy is in no condition to promote a movie. But we'll have to wait and see what happens. I personally can't see a Flash movie starring Ezra Miller being released. But sooner rather than later, this studio is going to have to show some public optics that they're not okay with this. That's the problem. You can't really be waiting and hoping for the best. This guy is a nightmare. He's a nut job. And they have to make a decision, and they have to be seen to be making a decision from the public, because this studio is an utter mess. And to be honest, the situation hasn't subsided since David Zaslav and Discovery have taken over. It's not their fault, but there's so many bombs and messes and clusterfucks to clean up. They don't know which mess to clean up next. Black Canary star discusses her DC Heroes new solo movie. Black Canary star Journey Smollett talks about Diana Lance's upcoming solo movie and what she's excited to explore with the DC heroine, by Andy, whose surname I can never pronounce, from Screen Rant. Black Canary star Journey Smollett talks about Diana Lance's upcoming solo movie and what she's excited to explore with the DC heroine. In 2020, Birds of Prey and the Fantabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn served as the introduction of several iconic DC heroines while fleshing out Margot Robbie's titular character. That's ironic, isn't it? Because her character had already been fleshed out in the first Suicide Squad movie. Hardly needed to be in this film. Definitely didn't need to be in this film. These characters have nothing to do with Harley Quinn in the comics or the animation where Harley Quinn started out. And it seems unfair that they were sidelined for Margot Robbie and her ego. The Kathy Yan-directed film saw the cinematic arrival of Helena Bertinelli, Huntress, Mary Elizabeth Winstead, Renee Montoya, Rosie Perez, and Dinah Lance Black Canary Smollett. After having made a lot of appearances in live-action TV shows, it wasn't until Birds of Prey that Black Canary landed her cinematic debut. Smollett's portrayal of Black Canary received such a strong positive reception that campaigns for a solo movie or HBO Max series were quickly kicked off by fans on social media. After the massive fan demand, Warner Brothers granted this wish, as a Black Canary film is officially in the works as an HBO Max original. Smollett is officially set to reprise the heroine and is currently the only attached cast member. That should give you a clue about the precarious situation this movie is in. Misha Green, who is reuniting with Smollett on her show Lovecraft Country, is penning the screenplay, while a director has yet to be tapped, but Misha Green originally was teasing that she might write and direct this. As I say, this movie, like many projects that weren't greenlit by Zaslav, are in a precarious situation, and it's irrelevant that the actress here is talking about it. It's part of the distractive tactics. It's all about Toby Emmerich trying to pretend everything in the garden is rosy, and it is not. We continue. Currently, Black Canary has no official release date, surprise, surprise, as the HBO Max product is still in its early stages. While principal photography has yet to kick off, Smollett recently spoke with Comic Book and was asked about the Black Canary film. Though she couldn't disclose new plot details, obviously, Smollett said she's excited to suit up again as the beloved DC heroine and truly explore Dinah as the leading character. Read what Smollett had to say about Black Canary. I'm just so incredibly excited about a number of things that I can't talk about. I mean, I'm excited. That's what I can say. I'm excited about getting to explore a lot. I feel like we've only touched the surface with Black Canary, and she's one of the dopest martial artists in the DC universe. That is something that is a real challenge in my head, that I'm just excited at the possibility of being able to explore deeper and further and wider and greater. After the completion of the Warner Brothers Discovery merger, there were concerns that perhaps Black Canary was in danger due to the lack of updates since its announcement. Breaking news, it is in danger. For instance, barely a month after KJ Apa and Isabel May were cast as Zan and Jaina, the studio cancelled the Wonder Twins movie. Yes, putting a kibosh in this rock Black Adam extended universe he had planned. Another HBO Max project due to budget cost. However, Green has shared some cryptic updates through social media, and given Smollett's latest comments, Black Canary is on track to go forward on HBO Max. No, it's not. It is uncertain. I'm not saying it's definitely not going to happen, but it's just as likely it won't happen. All Green has done is sat on a sunbed teasing the script that she's writing, that she's been writing for over a year. You know, that's not proof of anything. It's part of the distractive tactics. Don't get it twisted. Don't be fooled. There are a lot of directions that the Black Canary movie could take as the DCEU fleshes out Dinah's art. While it was explored briefly in Birds of Prey, a Black Canary film could go deeper into the history of Dinah's mother, Dinah Drake, who was the Golden Age Black Canary. The movie could also see Dinah begin to form relationships with other heroes in the DCEU. The upcoming Batgirl movie has a few Black Canary Easter eggs which may be reflected in Smollett's film in some capacity. Another problem, it's not breaking news, that Batgirl has finished production for weeks and weeks and still doesn't have a release date. As we've said before, Blue Beetle, that's just gone into production and shooting, is already got a release date. Again, you don't need me to draw you a picture. Smollett's film in some capacity, especially since Barbara and Dinah were both part of the Birds of Prey in the comics. Black Canary can also see Dinah finally meet Oliver Queen. That would be great. AKA the Green Arrow, and set up the iconic romance from the comics in the DCEU. Something tells me Misha Green and Journey Smollett, both very hardcore extreme left activists, and not interested in forming any relationship with a Green Arrow, or even introducing him. Hopefully more information on Black Canary will begin to emerge as the cameras get ready to roll later this year. You will be lucky. In your dreams, Andy, whose surname I can never pronounce or announce, or however you want to say it. Wow, you know, It would be great to see this. Journey was great in the movie. One of the few things I actually enjoyed about the movie. But as of now, they have no intention of rolling any cameras. And you know, when I did a live video waiting for all those big announcements at Warner Brothers Discovery up front, so we were saying, what happened? I know some of us were kind of foolishly thinking we'd get some Snyderverse announcements, which was dumb, and now looking at it, but it's always good to be hopeful, you know, rather than not being hopeful. So I'm a glass half full guy, not a glass half empty guy, so that's okay. But now you can see why so many projects weren't announced. They literally only announced the Batman 2 and Peacemaker Season 2, and they've just recently announced the Joker sequel as well. Because Zaslav's okay with those three things, but he's not okay with the other stuff. It doesn't mean they're definitely not going to happen, but he's reevaluating everything that Toby Emmerich greenlit. Meanwhile, Toby Emmerich is being Toby Emmerich and secretly telling his people to hype up and promote their shit, even though we may never see it. What an absolute clusterfuck of a mess. Let's talk about Smallville. For me, Smallville is the greatest, the best live-action comic book franchise of all time. Why? Well, let me explain to you why. Smallville started off as this little show, and it was allowed to breathe, both its concept and its characters. Now, the pacing in the first season, because of that, was kind of slow. Not for me. I love it that way. It earned the right what it became in season 4, 5, 6, and 7. Without it taking its time, it wouldn't have been the success it would have been. It had this charm. You know, they were taking from the X-Files and Roswell and Buffy, but they were doing their own thing. You know, Smallville is a Superman show, but he's not Superman within the show. He's got the powers, he's got the personality, but he's not going to be that character for many, many years. One of the major success stories of Smallville is it was building up to something. It was telling, you know, the character-driven story of how Clark Kent earns the right to become Superman, and how the tragic journey of Lex Luthor leads him to become the evil megalomaniac he becomes, driven by his hate of Superman. And so they decided to bring in Lex Luthor as a regular character in this pre-Superman story, having Clark and Lex being friends. The whole concept from Alfred Gough and Miles Miller, the showrunners for 7 seasons and the creators of the show, was the whole idea, the concept, it was the trials of Clark Kent and Lex Luthor. Every episode you saw these trials, and it was excellent. And one of the most brilliant things that fascinated me and catching my imagination is seeing these two iconic characters being friends, but we all knew that they would be enemies one day. And one of the things, even if you're one of those people who doesn't like Smallville for changing the canon so much, and I never minded that, if you change the canon to something greater and better, I'm fine with that. Changing canon isn't a problem to me unless you do something shit for your own political reasons. That's what I don't like. But if you're changing canon for the narrative of the story and it works out better for your format, your television show and your movie, bring it on. Let's go. But one thing that Smallville did right, many things in my book right, was Lex Luthor's journey. His friendship with Clark, his twisted father-son relationship with Lionel Luthor, aka John Glover. Millions of people around the world sat round with their families. Smallville was a show we watched together. Season 1 was also very clever. It used Clark, Pete and Chloe as Harry, Ron and Hermione. There's a lot of Harry Potter vibes in that first season. As I say, the show has this X-Files vibe in it as well. And how did they do that? By using kryptonite and making it a character within the show. Because I love the concept of kryptonite and I love it being used. Some people hate kryptonite, But I think kryptonite's a fucking brilliant thing, and I've always enjoyed that element. You need something to weaken Superman. Smallville tried two things to humanize Clark Kent. One of them was to make him weaker with kryptonite, and we were introduced to Red K, Green K, Silver Kryptonite, Gold Kryptonite, and these different color kryptonites can do different things to him. It was really brilliant by comic book writers back in the day to create those elements. So what happens is kryptonite makes Clark weaker in the show and in the comics, but they came up with something different that had never been in the comics before. Basically, kryptonite, if you're exposed to it as a human being, basically turns you into a mutant and gives you an ability, but what it is, it's all part of the psychological underpinnings of your weaknesses, something that you wished for all your life. There was one girl who, was it Alicia? No, it wasn't Alicia. Alicia could kind of portal everywhere, couldn't she? But I forgot her name. Greer, I forgot her first name, but she could literally be invisible because she felt she'd been invisible her whole life. So what they did, they used the new concept for kryptonite to actually affect human beings, but basically it was infecting teenagers, and it was this psychological underpinning, as I've said. So it was fascinating to see from week to week, and people kind of, by the end of the season, said, we're so fed up of the Freak of the Week. I loved it, but it was time to mostly leave it behind in the second and third season and going beyond that. And they did that. They brought it back now and again, and that was fine. The meteors were a big thing because Chloe Sullivan, who was not an original comic book character, played by Alison Mack, she was Clark's school friend, and she ran the school paper, and that was brilliant to see a character like Chloe, and it was for young people going to school at the time as well. Seeing a character who wanted to go to school, wanted to learn, wanted to run the torch, and her, Clark and Pete, were investigating the meteors and the meteor freaks, as Chloe had nicknamed them. Now, in the first season, Clark didn't know kryptonite was called kryptonite, so they called it they called them Meteor Rock. So it looked just amazing, such a charming show in its early season. Great live action Lana Lang, great live action Jonathan and Martha, slightly younger, they weren't old people in the show, and that worked. And that Kent family dynamic was so beautiful. And it was the first season that set it on its amazing course. But without the second season doing what it did, it would never have survived for a decade. What Smallville Season 2 did, instead of kind of continuing on the same trend as the first season, they took the story on. They introduced Sir Christopher Reeve, as I call him, because as far as I'm concerned, he should be a Sir. So they brought in Sir Christopher Reeve, but they didn't just walk him past Clark in a Stan Lee type cameo. They gave him the character of Dr. Virgil Swan, the person who tells Clark that he's from Krypton and what kryptonite is. He's an astronomer. What's beautiful about that episode Rosetta, which we all love and understand how powerful and important it is the passing of the torch from Christopher Reeve, the most iconic of Supermen, to the brand new Superman, if you like, at that time, Tom Welling. I was in fucking tears when I saw that episode, because Smallville's biggest strength was the underpinning of emotional moments. Smallville's character dynamics were as powerful as the superhero action, Clark fighting meteor freaks, mutants, whatever you want to call them. It was awesome. But season 2 made the decision really for everyone watching and the people in power at WBTV to keep the show going, because they moved the story on and they didn't stick it in one place. Because when I was watching season 1, I did wonder, are we telling a story where he ends up being Superman, or are we just going to be here on the farm doing the same things forever? I wasn't sure. I was delighted with season 2, and, you know, to introduce Terrence Stamp, aka the original General Zod from the original Christopher Reeve movies, as the voice of Jor-El, Clark's biological father, was sensational. And he wasn't the only person cameoing in this show from different Superman literature and movies. Amazing. But Terrence Stamp's voice was perfect for Jor-El, because this wasn't the Marlon Brando Jor-El. This wasn't this kind of pure figure trying to educate Clark. Instead of educating Clark in Smallville, Jor-El was giving him trials. He was trying to tempt him to do the wrong things on Earth. He told him when he first starts talking to him in the storm cellar and the ship opens up and he hears Jor-El's voice, that he's been sent to Earth to conquer. In that episode, Rosetta, it's amazing. So we don't hear Jor-El's voice in that special Rosetta episode with Christopher Reeve, but when he finishes his conversation with Dr. Virgil Swan, the ship opens up and Clark now can read the Kryptonian language, and it says he was sent here to conquer. And Clark is just losing it, and his dad goes, it doesn't matter what that ship is. You are Clark Kent, my son. You are a force for good, not for evil. As you can see, I'm choking up. Amazing. Because you've got all that emotion of seeing Sir Christopher Reeve, and then that. By the way, John Schneider was fucking amazing with Tom Welling in that storm cellar scene. And, you know, they cared. The people making this show cared. It's not like the people making stuff today. They cared about what they were doing. For me, Smallville will always be the Bible of Superman. But then we moved to season 3, which was the darkest season so far. And this really focused a lot on Lex Luthor and his path into becoming what he will ultimately become when Superman becomes Superman. But they give reasons for Lex Luthor becoming that megalomaniac. He goes through a dark episode. His own father is trying to drive him insane because Lex has found out that Lionel, his father, killed his own parents in a tenement fire to get their money and fortune, and he used a crime lord called Morgan Edge, direct from the comics, and played by the legend, the late, the brilliant Rutger Hauer. How Hauer Miles got him, I will never know. Brilliant again. So season 3, Lionel was fucking at his worst. This was a hardcore sci-fi J.R. Ewing, but deeper and darker and more villainous. This guy was wiping people out. And we saw him stand over Lex Luthor's body, his son, while they were electrocuting him. And they were electrocuting him to wipe his mind. And you could see Lionel crying because on the one side, he's divided. He doesn't want his son to be tortured like this, but he doesn't want his son to tell the police that he killed his own parents. So he wipes Lex's mind, but then Lex gets this regression hypnosis and gets his memories back. And the whole journey for the rest of the season is Lex trying to implement people like Clark and Lana to testify against Lex's father Lionel to put him in jail. And basically, I'm trying to convince people who have never seen Smallville to see it. At the end of the season, in the finale, one of the best season finales I've ever seen, you've got Lionel Luthor having a head shaved by a prisoner, by a convict in prison, while Lionel gets his revenge while he's in a prison cell. We see the Kent farm have this Kryptonian symbol burnt into it. We see Clark sucked into the Kawachi Caves. I forgot to talk about the Kawachi Caves. I'm going to talk about them very, very shortly. So he gets sucked through that because basically Jor-El uses this poor girl from the meteor shower and convinces her that she's Kara. She's not Kara. She's not the future Supergirl, but Clark falls for it. And then you see Lex Luthor drinking a glass of whiskey, scotch, whatever, with poison in it, and he falls to the floor. And then the head shave is over and Lionel goes like this and he goes, thank you. It's one of the most fucking ruthless, gangsterish character moments I've ever fucking seen, and it was amazing. So what were the Kawachi Caves? They were these mystical Native American caves in Smallville, but the difference is they had the Kryptonian language all over them, and written on them was the legend of someone called Namon. Namon was someone apparently from the stars who came to Earth, aka they were writing about Kal-El, Clark Kent. Now the tribe believed that Clark is Namon. Again, Smallville doing something absolutely amazing, and I'm going to talk about Warrior Angel very shortly. So basically DC wouldn't allow our Miles to introduce two things from the comics in the early days, Lois Lane and the Fortress of Solitude. They felt it was too early. They said to them, give it another couple of years. So the Kawachi Caves was a substitute for the Fortress. Now the set was very, very small and cumbersome, but it looked amazing. and it was great. So the Kawatche Caves was the place really where Clark learns the Kryptonian language again, taking our future Superman step by step, earning the right to become Superman, earning the right to become the amazing superhero show it later becomes. In its early days, it's a pre-Superman story, and it's wonderful. And you know, there's so many things like the cleverness and the intelligence of this show, like Warrior Angel. Our Miles, the showrunners and creators of this show, the showrunners for 7 of the 10 seasons, created a fictional comic book called Warrior Angel, basically kind of loosely based on Superman, a bald hero. This comic book was read by Lex Luthor because as a kid, because Lex was bald in the show as a 10-year-old boy because he was exposed to the meteor shower. Lex wasn't never officially a meteor freak, but his blood work was very different and he never got ill from the day he was infected by the kryptonite. So as a boy, Lex Luthor loved reading through the pages of the Warrior Angel comic because Warrior Angel was born as well. More genius, emotional, great narratively set character development by Al and Miles. It was absolutely amazing. And I forgot to mention Chloe's safe house blowing up by the hands of Lex Luthor, not Lionel Luthor, should I say, while he's getting his head shaved in the prison. You've got to see this show. Season 4 finally introduced Lois Lane. They cast Erica Durance, my joint favourite Lois Lane of all time. Margot Kidder from Reeves movies and Erica Durance from Smallville is basically, for me, the best Lois Lanes of all time. I'm not invalidating the other actresses before you start deciding that we're enemies because I don't have the same favourite Lois Lanes as you. It's okay. We can love whoever and whatever we want in life. You just got to have the emotional intelligence to deal with it. So she's absolutely fantastic from that moment in the car where she's in two minds whether to spark up that cigarette or not. Absolutely fantastic. And season 4 is about Clark playing football, getting a scholarship or not getting a scholarship. But the arc of that season is brilliant because Lana really becomes more than this on and off, on again love interest. She gets brought in to this legacy because we're introduced to Jensen Ackles, aka Dean from Supernatural, as Jason Teague, the new football and sports teacher at Smallville High, and he's secretly dating Lana. What we don't know is him and his mother, Genevieve Teague, played by the fantastic, fabulous Jane Seymour, are doing all of this on purpose because there's an ancestral legend about the Teague's background and about Lana Lang's ancestor, who was actually a witch. And what happens is there's these elements that everyone is looking for, and Lana happens to, because of one of these elements, have one of these tattoos on her. And so basically what nobody knows for a lot of the season is that basically these little crystal elements, you put them together, they become a diamond, and they are literally forging the knowledge of the universe, the Fortress of Solitude. So Clark doesn't think this is anything about him. He thinks it's more about Lana, but it's not. It's all connected to Clark, and he has to stop them putting it together. He has to put it together. He has to build the fortress. He has to do this before them. So it's this Indiana Jonesy types of mission, and it's absolutely fantastic. At the end of the season, a second meteor shower is coming because human blood has touched one of these Kryptonian elements because Lana becomes the witch and stabs Jane Seymour, aka Genevieve Teague. Amazing. Clark puts the elements together, throws the crystal just like in the movie, and in the next season we'll see the fortress rise, aka season 5 premiere. We see these brilliant CGI of the fortress rising, and Clark goes in and Jor-El's talking to him and training him. It's amazing, and the show does something even more amazing in season 5, something I've always been divided on. It kills off Jonathan Kent. And you know, I could just talk all day about what this show does, earning the right to be the superhero show it later becomes. From season 6, they even developed their own Justice League. It was an amazing show, an amazing prequel story that was heading for somewhere. It had so much to it, And I think it's the best live action franchise I've ever seen in my life. There were no problems. If there were problems, we didn't know about them. We didn't know about the problematic figures behind the scenes, because that's the kind of stuff back in those days the public weren't made aware of, and quite right too. And right now, Smallville is still relevant today. Yes, it is. They're developing an animated series, and Our Miles, the original creators and showrunners of the original show, are behind that with Michael Rosenbaum and Tom Welling, aka Lex Luthor, and Clark Kent themselves, all developing this animated show together. And very soon we're going to have a weekly podcast with Tom Welling, aka Clark Kent, our very own Superman, and Michael Rosenbaum, Lex Luthor. They're going to have a podcast weekly. They're going to rewatch an episode a week and talk about it. So it's really amazing to me in a lot of ways. And again, I'm divided over this because I've always been obsessed with Smallville while it was on, and I'm still obsessed with Smallville. That Smallville is getting more and more popular, and maybe this franchise is coming back. Maybe we'll get live action, animation, maybe something huge is happening with Smallville. I sniff it with this podcast and this animated show. Smallville has never been more relevant and important. And that's amazing considering we got the dceu, which is also in such a mess. So who knows what the future holds. But I tell you what, I hope we do get lots and lots of Smallville, because there is a hunger and appetite for Smallville, because Smallville was the greatest show on earth. And as I say, one of the best live action versions of Superman and comic book storytelling in general. This has been the DCEU Daily with me, Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wives. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you never miss this beautiful perfection. And I'll see you on Friday's edition of the DCEU Daily. Until we see each other again, goodbye, au revoir, auf Wiedersehen. See you again soon.